You're not exhausted because people take too much from you. You're exhausted because you never made them pay. That's the truth no one tells you. You are not tired from giving, you're tired from giving to the wrong people without ever making them earn it. And the worst part, they don't even realize they're bleeding you dry because you've trained them to believe it's normal, that your silence means agreement, that your accessibility means consent, that your kindness means you'll never walk away. But here's the Machiavellian truth. Kindness without consequence is not virtue, it's vulnerability. And predators, manipulators, users, they don't look for evil. They look for easy. They hunt softness. They smell uncertainty. They spot the one who says it's okay too quickly, the one who says, I understand when they're breaking inside, the one who stays polite when they should have slammed the door. And then they pounce. Not because they're monsters, but because you've made it easy. So no, this isn't a video about healing. This is a video about control, about reclaiming your personal borders and making them felt, not through anger, but through presence, through calm, calculated coldness, through the kind of silence that doesn't ask for respect, it commands it. You want peace. Learn to make it expensive. You want freedom. Start charging for access. You want to stop being walked on. Then stop laying down. You don't have to yell. You don't have to beg. You just have to become a presence that makes people think twice. This is not about being liked. This is about being respected, even feared if necessary. Because in a world that rewards exploitation, your boundaries aren't for comfort. They're for survival. And the moment you understand that, the entire script flips. There's a bitter truth most people never admit out loud. You are not being taken advantage of because the world is cruel. You are being taken advantage of because you've made it safe for people to do so. Every silent yes you whispered when your gut screamed no. Every time you laughed off disrespect, every time you told yourself it's not worth the fight, you weren't keeping the peace, you were surrendering it. Not all at once, but in slow, invisible pieces. And piece by piece, you trained people. You taught them how to treat you. You didn't need to say a word. Your tolerance was the language. Your availability was the instruction manual. Your kindness, when uncoupled from consequences, became the blueprint for your own exploitation. But here's where the pain sharpens. They're not even the villain. The friend who only calls when they need something, the coworker who drops their workload on your desk, the partner who manipulates you with guilt, they're just responding to a system you created. They've learned that stepping on you gets them closer to what they want, and never once have they been told there's a price. Why would they change who walks away from free labor, free emotional support, free tolerance? And still you sit with that ache in your chest, that quiet resentment, that growing sense that no one sees you. But they do. They see exactly what you've shown them you're safe to take from. And until you unlearn that identity, it will not stop. Machiavelli understood this deeply. He didn't believe people responded to goodness. He believed they responded to structure. And structure means cost. It means when someone crosses a line, they feel something. A consequence, a loss, a closed door, a withdrawal of warmth. Power in its purest form doesn't beg to be respected. It makes disrespect regrettable. So here's your reckoning: the world doesn't need to change. You do. Not into someone cruel, but into someone with edges. Someone whose love is strong but not free. Whose presence is valuable but not guaranteed. Someone who has finally stopped asking to be treated better and started requiring it. This is where it begins. The unraveling of your old identity. The end of your softness without structure. The beginning of your rise. Most people think boundaries are a polite gesture, a gentle nudge, a soft-spoken sentence wrapped in disclaimers. I just need a little space, hope that's okay. But Machiavelli would laugh at that. He didn't see boundaries as emotional therapy. He saw them as strategic warfare tools, not of comfort, but of command. And if your boundaries don't bite, they're just decorative lines in the sand waiting to be washed away by the next wave of guilt pressure or emotional manipulation. Real boundaries are not soft. They're sharp. They are the cold edge of a blade hidden beneath your warmth. They don't ask. They declare. They don't beg for understanding. They impose cost. Because true power does not rely on explanation. It relies on impact. You've been taught that drawing a boundary is selfish, that it's unkind, too rigid, too cold. But ask yourself, who taught you that? Probably someone who benefited from your lack of one. Someone who lost access when you finally said enough. And that's the inconvenient truth. Every time you build a wall, someone who was climbing you for free loses their ladder. So they call you difficult, dramatic, even cruel. But their discomfort is not your measure of integrity. Their offense is not a sign you've done something wrong, it's a sign you've finally done something right. Look closely. The people who call you selfish for drawing the line are usually the ones who are taking the most. That friend who got distant when you said no. That ex who claimed you changed when you finally refused to bend. That boss who stopped being nice when you stopped being available. What they miss is not you, it's your compliance. Boundaries. When real, don't need a warning label. They don't come with long emotional essays. They come with silence, distance, changed behavior. And that change should not be explained, it should be felt. If someone crosses you and nothing changes, you don't have a boundary. You have a performance. So sharpen your edges. Make your no definitive. Let your withdrawal be the language they never forget. This isn't about being cold. This is about being clear, because blurred lines invite invasion, but a sharp boundary. That's how you become unforgettable. Let's destroy a dangerous illusion. People do not change because you reasoned with them. They don't become better because you explained how you felt. They don't suddenly respect your needs because you wrote them a thoughtful message. The human mind, as noble as it claims to be, is wired for patterns, not principles. And Machiavelli understood this long before modern psychology gave it a name. People change when they feel the cost. Not before. Not when you ask. Not when you plead. When you enforce. When they lose access. When they taste silence. When they reach for you, and you're no longer there. You've been conditioned to believe that communication is the key to change. That if you just phrase it the right way, if you just stay calm enough, compassionate enough, open-minded enough, they'll get it. But here's the hard truth, they already get it. They just don't think you'll do anything about it. And as long as that remains true, nothing changes. Think of a child who keeps touching a hot stove despite being told not to. The words mean nothing until they feel the burn. That pain rewires the behavior. That's how humans learn. Through loss, through discomfort, through consequence. And adults are no different. They don't stop crossing your line because you asked them nicely. They stop when crossing it costs them something they care about. So, what does this mean for you? It means that every time someone violates your peace and you let it slide, you're teaching them that your peace has no value, that you have no teeth, that you're all theory, no enforcement, and they will test you again because there is no penalty. They will take what you allow, not because they're cruel, but because you've shown them it's free. Pain is not always punishment. Sometimes it's instruction. Sometimes it's mercy. Because nothing shapes a person's behavior faster than the sting of losing something they thought was guaranteed. So stop repeating yourself. Stop writing essays to people who have already heard your boundary and chosen to ignore it. Let the silence hit. Let the distance speak. Let them feel the absence of you. Because people don't change when they understand you. They change when they fear losing you. There comes a point where words become weapons, dull ones. You've already said it. You've already explained. You've already pleaded, clarified, justified. But they still crossed the line. And now you're standing there again rehearsing a new way to say the same thing, hoping this time it lands. But Machiavelli would ask you one simple question. Why are you still talking to someone who already made it clear they don't care what you say? Words without consequences are noise. And the more you explain, the more you reveal one terrifying truth: they can violate you, and nothing really happens. That's why they keep testing. Not because they're confused, but because they're calculating. And every sentence you offer them, is evidence that you're still available for negotiation, that your boundaries are still up for debate, that you're not ready to walk away. You want to be respected. Stop announcing your boundaries. Enforce them. Don't say, if you keep doing this, I'll have to distance myself. Just distance yourself. Don't say, this really hurt me. Just pull back. Cut off the energy. End the call early. Leave the room mid-sentence. Show them that when the line is crossed, you don't perform emotion, you deliver consequence. Silence can be a sword. Detachment can be a sentence. Disconnection can be justice. These are the tools of those who don't need to convince, they only need to act. And action clean and quiet teaches far more than any heartfelt explanation ever could. The goal is not to create drama. The goal is to end the performance. Because explaining yourself over and over is not clarity, it's desperation. And people can feel it. They can smell it. Every time you beg to be understood, you bleed value. The most powerful people in the room don't speak more. They speak less. And when they do, they don't explain, they declare. When they're disrespected, they don't argue. They exit. Not in rage, but in precision. And that absence, that silence, it haunts more deeply than any confrontation ever could. So stop broadcasting your boundaries like you need permission for them to matter. Don't speak. Strike. Let them feel the difference between access and exile. And once they've felt that, they'll never forget the cost of crossing you. Your boundaries will fail the moment you try to enforce them based on emotion. Because emotion wavers. Emotion rationalizes. Emotion says, maybe they didn't mean it that way. Emotion says, maybe I'm overreacting. And by the time you've calmed down, you've already forgiven something that should have never been tolerated in the first place. That's why Machiavelli never told rulers to govern with their heart. He told them to govern with policy, with structure. Because when a prince acts from emotion, he becomes reactive, and reaction is predictable. But when he acts from system, he becomes untouchable. You don't need another lecture about self-worth. What you need is a code, a personal constitution, rules that are not up for debate, that don't require your mood to be just right, that execute themselves like law. Why? Because systems are clear, consistent, and unshakable, and people only respect what is consistent. Let me be blunt. If your boundaries change depending on how lonely you feel that day, they're not boundaries, they're bargaining chips. And people will sense it. They'll push and pull, waiting for the days you're too tired to defend yourself. And on those days, you'll collapse. Again. So stop deciding your standards in the moment. Pre-write your laws. Example. If someone speaks to me with contempt twice, they lose access. I don't explain myself to people who drain me. I don't answer texts after 9 p.m. If I feel guilt-tripped, I disengage. No second guessing, no soft exceptions, no emotional courtrooms. You're not being cold. You're being consistent. And in a world full of people who fold, your consistency becomes power. You train people not by what you allow once, but by what you never allow again. A system enforces itself without drama, without raised voices, without emotional fatigue. So build your framework like a fortress. And once it's built, never bend it to accommodate anyone's discomfort, because the moment you adjust your standard to avoid conflict, you become negotiable. And what's negotiable is always exploited. Your feelings are valid, but your system is stronger. Govern yourself like a ruler, not a people pleaser. Let your policies speak louder than your pain. You've been told that being cold is wrong, that silence is rude, that distance is punishment. But what if I told you that coldness is not cruelty, it's clarity? That your refusal to engage is not heartless, it's a declaration of self-respect, because here's the truth. Emotional closeness is the lever manipulators pull first. They exploit your warmth. They use your empathy against you. The more they can entangle themselves in your feelings, the harder it is for you to enforce anything. You start explaining, rationalizing, second-guessing. You give them the benefit of the doubt, even when the doubt is killing you. Machiavelli knew this well. He advised rulers to remain emotionally detached, not because love has no place in power, but because power cannot survive if it's held hostage by guilt. Detachment is not a lack of care. It's the refusal to let care become a weapon. So here's what coldness really is: emotional discipline. The ability to step back without screaming, without crying, without proving a thing. It's the ability to say nothing, and in that silence communicate everything. You've been taught to chase closure, to leave things on good terms, but closure is often just a trap to keep you explaining your boundaries to someone who already violated them. Why offer understanding to someone who showed you none? Why give softness to someone who weaponized your kindness? When someone disrespects you, they don't need another explanation. They need absence, distance, the removal of your energy, your warmth, your access, and the more graceful your exit, the more unforgettable it becomes. You don't need to slam the door. Just close it quietly, completely. Let the silence stretch. Let them sit with what they did. Let them wonder if they'll ever feel your presence again. That void, that lack of access will haunt them far more than any words you could have said. Because you didn't yell, you didn't beg, you just disappeared. That's not cruelty, that's command. And when you finally realize that you don't need to explain your value, you just need to enforce it, your coldness will stop feeling like a betrayal and start feeling like power. There's a moment right after someone disrespects you when your instincts scream to react, to explain, to defend, to raise your voice, clarify your position, plead to be understood. That's the trap. Because in that moment, what you're really doing is teaching them you're still available for negotiation. But what if you did something far more powerful? What if you did nothing? Machiavelli understood the psychology of silence better than most modern minds. He knew that tension is leverage, and silence is the tension that forces people to confront themselves. When you stop reacting, stop speaking, stop filling in the emotional blanks for everyone else, you create space. And that space, it drives manipulators mad. Silence doesn't mean surrender. It means control. It means you're not explaining what they already know they did. It means you don't need them to agree in order for your boundary to matter. It means you are no longer performing pain for their approval. You've been conditioned to over-explain. I just need space. I'm not angry, I hope you understand, but stop. Every soft landing you give them teaches them they can fly right through you next time. You are not required to make others feel comfortable after they've made you feel small. Try this instead. Let the silence hang. Let it expand like a storm cloud. Don't break it. Don't apologize for it. Let them feel the weight of your absence, not because you want to punish, but because you refuse to beg for basic respect. And when they ask, why are you acting different, you simply say, you know why. That line alone turns silence into a mirror. It forces reflection. It creates fear. Not of you, but of what they did. It makes them unsure. Unsure of where they stand, unsure of how far they've gone. And in that uncertainty, they begin to self-regulate. Because silence, when strategic, is not weakness, it's a psychological weapon. The more unpredictable your response, the more calculated their behavior becomes. So speak less. Withdraw more. Let your absence whisper what your mouth no longer has to say. You're not ignoring them, you're training them. And trust me, they'll hear the silence louder than any scream. Disrespect doesn't always need punishment. Sometimes it just needs absence. Not dramatic exits. Not long texts. Not emotional confrontations. Just silence. Distance. Withdrawal. Because here's the truth you've been avoiding. Your energy is fuel. Your attention is validation. Your presence is power. And when someone crosses your line and you keep giving them access, your words, your time, your softness, you are handing out gold to someone who's already shown they'll spend it recklessly. So stop yelling. Stop explaining. Stop crafting the perfect response. You don't need to prove you were hurt. You don't need to make them feel it. You just need to cut the energy supply. When someone violates your peace, you don't owe them a reaction. You owe yourself a boundary. And the strongest boundary isn't built with noise, it's built with vacancy. Pull your presence. Reclaim your warmth. Remove your eyes, your ears, your concern. Give them nothing. This is the Machiavellian response, not fury, but invisibility. Not drama, but disappearance. Because the moment someone feels your absence, not as punishment, but as consequence, they begin to understand the cost. not through your anger, but through the vacuum you leave behind. Think about it, we chase what we miss, not what we still have easy access to. And when someone who once depended on your availability suddenly faces your silence, they panic, not because you're cruel, but because they realize too late that you were the source of something they never valued until it vanished. You don't have to slam the door, just lock it and walk away, quietly, completely. Because the truth is, people rarely change when you give more. They change when they get less. So don't punish with rage. Punish with restraint. Don't react loudly. Respond by subtracting. No more comfort. No more support. No more you. The most terrifying thing you can do to someone who took you for granted is to become unavailable. Kindness is not your problem. Accessibility is. You've been kind over and over, and still people forget your value the moment you stop serving their needs. Why? Because what is constant becomes expected. What is expected becomes invisible. And what is invisible gets disrespected. Machiavelli understood this cruel law of human nature: value is not inherent. It is manufactured. And nothing is devalued faster than what's freely available. The more someone can count on your warmth, your yes, your it's fine, don't worry about it, the more they stop seeing it as a gift and start seeing it as a given. That's when the slow erosion begins. The late replies, the jokes that cut too deep, the demands masked as favors, the disrespect disguised as honesty. And you wonder, how did we get here? The answer is simple: you trained them that your kindness had no cost. So now it's time to shift, to recalibrate the entire frame. Kindness isn't your identity, it's a privilege. Something people earn through consistency, respect, and effort, not something they inherit by proximity or blood or history. Ask yourself, who gets unlimited access to your warmth without ever showing up for you? Who drains your energy, but calls you too sensitive when you set a boundary? Who assumes you'll always forgive, always explain, always be the bigger person? Now reverse it. Make your kindness selective. Make your empathy rare. Make your support something they notice when it's gone. You're not becoming colder. You're becoming discerning. And that discernment is what separates leaders from doormats. Because once people realize your softness is not guaranteed, once they feel the shift from default kindness to earned presence, they begin to cherish what they once overlooked. They adjust. They self-regulate. Or they walk. And if they walk, let them. Because the day your kindness becomes something they fear losing is the day they finally respect you. You were never meant to be an open field walked on, taken for granted, left exposed to every wandering storm of other people's emotions. You were meant to be a fortress, strong, selective sovereign. But somewhere along the way, you traded your walls for welcome signs. You let people in too quickly. You gave access before they earned trust. You made your energy available by default. And now you're exhausted, not from giving too much, but from not protecting enough. Machiavelli didn't just study kings, he studied kingdoms. And every strong kingdom has one thing in common, Gates. Entry is not assumed, it's earned. Proximity is not random, it's selective. And when someone violates the peace of the kingdom, they don't get another tour, they get banished. Your life should work the same way. Your time is royal currency. Your attention is sacred property. Your emotional state is national security. You don't give out the keys to your inner world just because someone asks nicely or worse, expects it. Every person who enters should feel the gravity of that privilege. So build the fortress. Shrink your circle until only the worthy remain. Decline invitations that cost your peace. Stop explaining yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you. Don't leave the drawbridge down hoping someone will appreciate the gesture they won't. Shut the gates. Let them knock. Let them wonder. Let them earn entry if they ever do. And if they don't, that's not loss. That's order. That's security. That's strength. Because the more protected your inner world becomes, the less chaos you attract. When your life is a fortress, the foolish don't linger, the reckless don't dare, and the ones who remain, they respect what you guard. You're not cold. You're not cruel. You're strategic. And the moment you stop treating yourself like a public park is the moment the world finally sees you as something worth respecting, not something free to consume. The truth is, chilling people don't treat you based on who you are. They treat you based on who they believe you are. And the longer you wear the mask of the understanding one, the flexible one, the one who always comes back, the deeper that identity embeds in their mind, until one day it's not even questioned, it's expected. You're not seen as strong, you're seen as safe, not in a comforting way, in a harmless way, predictable, forgiving, nice. But nice is the most dangerous label you can carry. It sounds like a compliment, but it's often a coffin decorated with politeness. Machiavelli would warn you what they expect from you is what they feel entitled to receive. And when that expectation is unconditional kindness, your boundaries are already buried. So if you want to be respected, even feared not in a cruel way, but in a commanding one, you must begin where most never dare, redefining your identity. No more over-explaining, no more soft landings, no more emotional cushioning after you draw the line. From now on, let your tone shift. Let your smile fade sooner. Let your pauses stretch longer. When someone jokes at your expense, don't laugh. Just look. When someone overreaches, don't react. Just leave. Don't explain. Don't defend. Let them feel the discomfort of not knowing where they stand anymore. This is how power begins, not by yelling, but by becoming unreadable, unpredictable, a little harder to read, a little slower to respond, a little less available, because the people who cannot calculate your reaction become cautious around you. Redefining how they see you isn't about changing who you are. It's about correcting what they got wrong. It's about taking your image back from the version they created for their convenience. Because when they start questioning how to approach you, how to speak, when to speak, if they still have access, you've already won. You didn't become cruel. You became unmistakably powerful. Real power is not having to punish people. Real power is when they fear crossing you in the first place. You see, most people wait. They wait until a line is crossed, until their peace is shattered, until the betrayal is undeniable, and only then, too late, they react. They raise their voice, write long texts, stage emotional exits. But by then, the damage is done. The disrespect already normalized, the role already assigned. Machiavelli would say, the wise ruler enforces order before chaos arrives. He doesn't wait for rebellion. He makes rebellion unthinkable. And you must do the same. Your boundaries shouldn't be a surprise. They should be felt instinctively, not because you warned them, but because your presence radiates consequence. People lower their voices in cathedrals. They straighten their backs in courtrooms. Why? Because those spaces carry weight. They command respect without a single word. That's the aura you must build. When someone enters your life, let them feel without explanation that access to you is earned, not given. That being close to you is not a right, but a privilege that can vanish without ceremony. How do you create that? Through reputation, through contrast, through enforcement. If someone treats you well, let them see your best, your warmth, loyalty, generosity. But the moment they test the boundary, change. Go still. Pull back. Let your silence carry weight. Let your energy vanish without warning, not emotionally, strategically. Because what people fear more than confrontation is confusion, not knowing where they stand, not knowing if they've been demoted, not knowing what you'll do next. That uncertainty forces adjustment. It plants caution. And that's the foundation of respect. Your goal is not to keep correcting people. It's to train them to regulate themselves. And you do that not by speaking louder, but by making your energy more valuable, your boundaries more sacred, and your presence just unpredictable enough to command precision. Let them walk lightly around you. Let them think twice, not because you demand it, but because you designed it. There comes a time when you must ask yourself, why am I still explaining things to people who already made the decision to ignore me? And the answer is uncomfortable, because you're hoping that if you just explain it well enough, they'll finally treat you differently. But here's the Machiavellian truth. No one is confused about your boundaries, they're just unconvinced there will be consequences. Every time you explain, every time you soften the blow, every time you write another emotional monologue trying to make them understand what you're really saying is, my boundary is still up for discussion. And that right there is why they keep pushing. Words are cheap. Results are remembered. Think about it when someone crosses a line and nothing happens. Just another talk, another tearful moment, another, I just want you to know. They're not learning respect. They're learning strategy. They're learning that if they just wait long enough, cry hard enough, or say the right excuse, you'll bend again. Machiavelli advised rulers, when punishment is necessary, let it be swift and never repeated. Not out of cruelty, but to prevent chaos. The same applies to your personal kingdom. Repeating boundaries weakens them. Explaining boundaries neutralizes them. Enforcing boundaries defines them. So here's your new rule. One line, one warning, one action. After that, no second chances. No courtroom, no emotional TED Talk. Just change. Cold, clean, visible change. And when they ask, why are you acting different, you simply respond. I already told you once. I don't repeat myself. Let that be the moment they realize they've misjudged you. That the old version of you, the one who begged to be understood, is gone. That now you're no longer requesting respect. You're requiring it. The people who love you will adapt. The ones who don't, they'll leave. And either outcome is a victory. Because in a world full of negotiators, the one who enforces without apology is the one who gets respected. Predictability is comfort for them, and comfort breeds carelessness. When people know exactly how you'll react, they stop respecting your limits. They memorize your patterns, manipulate your empathy, and rehearse just enough apology to buy another chance. You've unknowingly taught them how far they can push and exactly when you'll fold. But Machiavelli knew something modern minds often forget: the more predictable you are, the more controllable you become. And if they can calculate your reactions, they own your power. So kill the script. Become unreadable. Not mysterious for the sake of ego, but strategic in silence, decisive in withdrawal, and deliberate in every move. Let people wonder what version of you they'll meet today, the one who listens or the one who vanishes mid-sentence. Keep them guessing, not because you're unstable, but because you refuse to be played like a formula. When they expect softness, give distance. When they expect anger, give stillness. When they expect forgiveness, give silence. That tension, that unpredictability, it's the soil where caution grows. And caution is what builds respect. You don't owe anyone consistency at the cost of your self-respect. You owe yourself sovereignty. So say maybe more often. Respond slower. Smile less. Don't explain why you're pulling away, just do it. Because the more you speak, the more data they collect. The more you withhold, the more they watch what they say. Let them feel like they're always one mistake away from losing you, because that's the truth. And people treat you differently when they fear miscalculating. Unpredictability is not chaos. It's control. You're not playing games. You're protecting your peace. And when your boundaries stop being events and start becoming an atmosphere, you don't have to remind people how to treat you. They'll already feel it. The unknown isn't your weakness. It's your weapon. So never let them read you too clearly, because when people can't predict you, they stop playing with you. You've spent enough time reacting, enough time correcting, confronting, explaining, defending. But now you rise above the noise. You stop managing people and start managing standards. Because real power isn't about keeping others in check. It's about creating an environment where only the worthy remain. Where your values are so clear, your boundaries so unshakable, and your energy so protected that those who don't match your frequency quietly exit on their own. You don't need to cut them off. They'll disqualify themselves. Machiavelli never told rulers to chase loyalty. He told them to build frames so powerful that loyalty either aligned or vanished. The same applies to you. So level up. Not out of spite, but out of strategy. Make your schedule tighter. Let your time become sacred. Keep building, evolving, growing without sending out invitations. Let your peace become so stable that chaos feels uncomfortable in its presence. When drama arrives, don't engage. Just elevate. Rise so quietly that the noise below no longer touches you. And here's the twist: you don't have to raise your voice, slam the door, or deliver a final speech. Just grow. Just enforce your code. Just stay consistent. People who are too loud, too selfish, too inconsistent, they'll begin to feel out of place. Your energy will no longer tolerate them, not because you said anything, but because your standards changed the air they breathe. And when they leave, don't chase. Don't mourn what couldn't keep up. That's not loss. That's filtering. That's alignment through elimination. This is the final stage of power, when your presence no longer has to prove anything, when your name alone carries weight. When people don't test your boundaries, not because they fear the consequence, but because they already know they don't meet the standard. So speak less, rise higher. Let your silence filter the room, because when your standards are sacred, the unworthy never stay long. In a world that rewards convenience and punishes passivity, the lesson is clear: you teach people how to treat you by what you tolerate. Boundaries aren't about being cold or distant. They're about being clear, about signaling without apology that your time, energy, and presence are not free. If someone keeps crossing the line, it's not because they're confused. It's because you haven't made the cost high enough. Your value doesn't come from how much you give. It comes from what you refuse to give away for free. When you stop over-explaining, stop softening your no, and start enforcing, without guilt, something powerful happens. People either rise to meet your standard, or they exit. And either way, you win. Kindness, when consistent with strength, becomes respect. But kindness without boundaries, that becomes a magnet for emotional leeches. You don't have to become cruel, but you must become consequential. The people who love you will adapt. The ones who don't were never there for you. They were there for your compliance. So here's your challenge moving forward. Build your life like a fortress, not a public park. Select who gets in. Filter who stays. Guard what you've built. And never ever apologize for making people earn access to your peace. If this hits something deep, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And if you're ready to take back control, hit subscribe, like, and drop a comment about the boundary you're setting today. Let the world know your kindness isn't gone. It just has teeth now.